I'm Harris. I'm the program director for our wonderful award-winning radio network, and to my right is our wonderful producer, Ronnie the Blue Eye Native, who hosts two shows and does a lot of amazing things for us behind the scenes. And we're excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys.
You too.
Definitely.
I know
Yeah.
exactly where you are. I've been to Concord.
Have you?
I have.
When was that? Long
Oh, a
ago?
while back. A while back. It was just kind of a quick pass through. But I remember being there.
It all kind of blends together to me, I grew up a little bit further north here in Lake County, up, more in the country, in the mountain country, and I just always remember it was either East Bay or San Francisco. It's pretty much it. They're all suburbs, and everywhere I go now is the same way. Like I lived for about 2 decades in Colorado, and it was the same way where it's like, well, where you live? Denver. Easier for people to grasp.
Yeah. Well, we've got like 9 questions here, and we'll just kind of go back and forth. Ronnie and I'll take turns, and feel free to. We're good on time, so we have
In an hour. Yeah, the first question is just tell us about yourself. We're just like if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, your tribal affiliation and all of that.
Should I do the intro just like we normally do too?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And then so we'll get if you're ready, we'll go ahead and get started. I'll do a little, 3, 2, 1 countdown and yeah.
Are you guys
And
gonna roll straight through this, or are you gonna edit this up at your
we'll edit into a video with an opener and an ending to put on our blog on our website and our YouTube, and then we'll edit down into little sections where we'll put it on some shows just before during our country hour, just before like we play one of your songs, we'll just post a short segment of like this interview before it, and then yeah.
Okay.
And
All
Echo
right.
Walls is good, by the way. I really like that. Thanks for sending it over.
Thank you. I got about an album's worth of tracks. I've been struggling to move from one studio to another, and we just now start. Probably should have had them released before the end of last year, but now I'm going to be releasing them. I can explain this in the interview.
There we go. All right. So we'll go ahead and get started.
We're recording.
We are recording.
Cool.
And 3, 2.
Welcome to the Daybreak Star Radio Network. Our motto, our mission, what we stand by, in my opinion, we can't say it enough, is officially indigenized in the airways. We are the Daybreak Star Radio Network, and we're honored and privileged to have a wonderful opportunity to chat with John Paul Hodge, coming to us from Concord, California, on this somewhat sunny Seattle afternoon. Not sure how the weather is down there, but John, welcome aboard to our wonderful Zoom chat here that all of our listeners will be able to see on our award-winning blog and our social media.
Hey, thank you for inviting me on here. Had I not blurred my background, you'd see that it's quite a bit like Seattle weather here today. We're in for our next cyclone bomb is just starting to come through. Not a lot of wind yet, but it's raining pretty good. And, that's one thing I like about being from the Pacific Coast. It's like I always appreciated the moisture. And so I'm glad to have a little bit of it, even though, everyone's already complaining about it and ready to move. I said, try moving to Seattle.
So first off, simple question. Tell us about yourself so our listeners get to know who you are.
My name is John Paul Hodge. It's my real birth given name. I grew up here in Lake County, California, outside of Ukiah, in about a half an hour to the east, in a small town called Upper Lake. I spent most of my youth. I have family all along this part of the coast, or this part of California, from east to west. Somehow concluding this way, I have a pretty large family here, but from a lot of migrant work over the generations, we just kind of wound up all around this area. All of the picking agriculture areas where a lot of my family's from. So I grew up in Upper Lake, California. I lived in Woodland, California, and then after high school, I traveled here and there and attended universities at Oklahoma and Norman, and Fort Collins of Colorado State University, and here and everywhere between. But now I live here in the East Bay, near Mount Diablo and Concord, Walnut Creek area, which is kind of it's kind of an ironic place because Walnut Creek is somewhat high class area, and Concord is there's homelessness on the streets right in front of you, and maybe this is going on everywhere, but it makes for a nice mixed American kind of neighborhood here, where you get a little bit of everything, a lot of high expectations and goals, but also at the same time, a lot of constant reminders of how good life is. So if we can just keep this rain up, I'd be happy. And this is what I love about the Bay Area.
Nice. Nice. Awesome. So what influenced you? Who's there? Was there an original role model? Was there someone that, you really looked up to, before you officially made the decision to, go into the music business, to be a recording artist, to find your genre of music that you wanted to represent and be part of? And if you can kind of walk us through that trajectory.
I still, after all these years, don't know that I found out, where I want to be in music. Music connected to me from a young age. My great grandfather was said to have been a Juilliard musician, and I think in after coming to find out, he wasn't. He just he was just an American guy who loved music and was part of the whole Western process. But there was a respect for music. Like, my grandfather was very much into classical music, and my dad and my mom were into all the 60s and 70s pop culture. So really, I grew up kind of like an entitled American, where I heard some of these famous, all these same famous singers and musicians that everybody else did, and I was like, hey, I can do that. So like, everybody I ever heard in my life influenced me and made me want to do that. I just somehow, maybe my imagination's too strong, or I don't have enough ambition otherwise, that I feel like I just immediately was like, hey, that's what I'm gonna do. It's the only thing that connects to me, and there's probably a lot of people that feel that way one way or another about any passion that they have. But for me, I think I just dove right in and soaked all of it in. My dad sang his words all the time. He would always say, take out the garbage, son. Just everything we communicated was somehow musical, and we did a lot of bird calls and things like that. And so I think just the nature of my life, it turns out to be very musical. And then, being a working class, I just kind of happened to fall into that whole struggling, starving artist, singer-songwriter kind of persona that you hear so much about, Townes Van Zandt, and some people have to chase it down. And I see it, a lot of that in our generation, this newer generation now, where we're trying this thing that we heard about, but in this technological digital era, it's kind of hard to be a cowboy. I'm impressed with the musicians, the young musicians that I see that perfect their instruments and things, that goes against kind of what society, I think, is throwing at us as far as musical artists. But for me, I just happened to wind up here, and I think I emulated my dad somewhat in his country music love. My uncles and my dad, and they're all kind of agricultural, country people. And so when they dress nice, we dressed in Western clothes and hats and boots. And other than that, my mom was from San Francisco, and she loved R&B music and Otis Redding and a lot of things that came out of there, and so I just learned to go at it hard and enjoy what you love, because I didn't do anything else really. I dropped out of college and didn't pursue my degree in music, and I did everything the hard way. I'm still feel like I'm doing it the hard way, and I wouldn't recommend anyone do it like this, but I don't think anybody is. A lot of getting into the business now are pretty smart. All the business plans are there for them to grab a hold of, and I see a lot of people with great business plans, but I don't know, their lyrics are a lot of text messages, I think, and I hear that in pop music. It's hard to differentiate. Like, I don't know that I enjoy the standard that's being set, but there's a lot of good creative people out there, and it's a human thing. I'm impressed and looking forward to what I hear. And then there's a lot of things that I see and hear. I'm like, oh, no, no, thank you. There's already plenty of that. And pitch correction is something that we all have to, a bridge we all have to cross at some point.
Right, right. So I'm curious, how important is it to you to weave your native culture into your music? You know, just you obviously want to make sure a little bit of you is in there. How important is that to you?
It's really to me the ultimate factor in wanting for something for my music, you know, like I could be on a porch strumming a guitar at 80 years old and probably be satisfied that I have music in my personal space for the moment. But when you think about a legacy, and that sounds really lame to say that, you know, I didn't do anything else and I don't have a great wealth or a whole lot of financial success involving music, but I will have art that I'll be leaving behind. And when I think about my family and the thing, you know, the utilizing the talent and strength that I have, it has to be for that purpose for me. Out of all the purposes that everybody finds to try to put out, the indigenous experience and our reflections left, you know, now is really to me, that's what I want for my life as well, is to make sure that we never forget and realize that the culture that we're actually living here is at the at the expense of the old way. And everybody can debate one way or another, but the old way, I believe, had information that humanity needed and still needs. And so I think that the pursuit of material in our society is so far, you know, just hooked into everybody so deeply that we need as many relatives as we can to actually, you know, put out the information and maintain our status here in this society as being, you know, important and necessary and something we need to fight to remember, because a lot of the old cultures are just kind of being washed aside. And even now, even, you know, people that are have bloodlines but are disconnected from tradition and culture, that's, you know, that's the nature of history here, you know, without the lessons to be taught, and that has to be taught by us, I suppose. The textbooks don't teach a great history. And, you know, if indigenous artists can provide a connection to the mainstream so that everybody can reconnect, that's the really important thing that we need to happen. Like right now, we need to build the foundation for that and be driven towards a single goal, I think, in that sense. And most people want to do that, but also I don't know, you know, how much. You don't want to go to jail too many times for being an activist, and you don't want to ostracize yourself from society. You want to be able to connect to people and not be too serious all the time. You know, I write a lot of sad songs because that's the nature of a lot of the history for indigenous people and ancestors. And I'm kind of stuck in that position. You know, now I'm find myself not really caring to write as many dance songs, so, you know, people can. It's a weird time when you to think that everybody can make some kind of point and get their perspective across. And some of it's kind of selfish that I think I can do it and anybody's going to listen. But, you know, the more people I meet who do connect with me, the more relatives I meet that are into the politics, I guess, you know, activism and getting these points across, the more I realize I'm not alone. I'm riding a wave of, you know, thousands and thousands of other human beings here. And so that feels good. It'll be up to you all to let me know if I'm doing it the right way or if I'm, you know, saying something wrong. It's important to network out that way because we all have a different experience. I don't personally have a deep historical culture set of traditions taught to me throughout my family. You know, my family came to California during the Depression era from Oklahoma, and the traditions in my family kind of disappeared over one generation. You know, that my grandmother was born with the language, and my cousins and I were born without a single word of it. and it strikes me as being something very, very upfront and shocking to me. And it kind of, that drives me not to anger, but to sadness and frustration, and the desire to be so. You got to get around a res to really find out where you're at, because where I grew up in California, there's a lot of mixed cultures all jammed together. Even the tribes out here, the bands were all kind of pushed together into different places to, because they were moved out from the gold mines and stuff. And so there's not a lot of cohesion as far as tradition. Overall, there's no big picture, but everybody has to get together with, all nation songs. And when you go to the powwow, those are a lot of all nation songs, and you got to learn that. And there's a whole, I am rambling a lot. Probably going over the same thing. So if I start repeating myself,
all good.
No, that's good. It's good information. You're speaking your truth.
It's important to me.
Absolutely. What goes into, making a song for you, when you're pulling out the cookbook and you're getting in the kitchen and you're whipping up the recipe? Describe that. Does it start with the beat, lyrical hook? What does that flight plan look like? And how long does that process normally take from, the notepad to getting in there with the engineer and the producer to, having a little listening party session?
Yeah, I feel like I've personally been blessed with having inspired moments. There have been times when I've had whole songs come to me all in one shot, and I say that, I guess I'm not meaning, that the words and lyrics were for the third verse were together, but, the structure of a verse going into a hook and stuff like that, it could be the rhythm in any kind of language in a phrase, those will come, and then you build off of the rhythm. I think I'm lucky enough to have started as a drummer, and that everything to me is kind of rhythm based at first. But if you can find a good combination of melody and rhythm, then it's really easy to come up with hooks. But for me, if I'll get an idea, it'll just be a little lick or a melody, and then I can, if I'm inspired enough by it, usually everything will fall into place. But getting it recorded, that's a different process. That's where I got some ADHD problems, and probably like a lot of people, I have 1,000 great ideas that were never finished and are sitting here waiting. So maybe to answer with all confidence that I know what I'm talking about as far as taking an idea and turning it into art, plenty of inspirations, but always take that all the extra necessary steps to finish that bad boy. Otherwise, it's not art. It's just an idea, another fleeting idea. I got plenty of those.
So I'm curious, where would you like to see yourself and your music in, like, say, the next 10 years? Like, where are you hoping you'll be at? By winning a Grammy by then, at least, or something?
No, I don't no, I've never really taken any steps to professionalize my music. I never reached out to publishers or record labels or anything. I only really ever wanted to write a good song, and that may sound really ridiculous and like a lie, but I would just like to continue to receive a few listeners and some requests to have me perform some of this stuff, and then to make music that historically suits us and as a group and moves us, and I just want a little bit of respect in that sense. It'd be nice to be able to pay all the bills, and I guess if you mean like winning a Grammy, I don't know, whatever level that is for me to get to a tier where I can make enough per performance to be able to pay my bills off for a month. I'm good with that. I'm gaining a little bit of love from the powwows and red markets and indigenous markets, and some of these some movers and shakers within our podcasting industry here. Just that kind of love and support, just to know that I can continue doing what I am doing out of respect, is literally enough for me to keep going. Because like I said, I'll be 80 years old and I'll have a guitar or some other instrument, and I'll personally be satisfied, because I don't I'm not weighing my life on whether or not I can succeed musically. In fact, I kind of don't enjoy having to face that. It'd be nice to just play music without the stress of making it worthy, in a dollar amount. That's hard for everybody.
Mm-hmm. It takes away from the artistry of it.
It does, and it also, there's no ceiling in the music industry, so everybody with the biggest ambitions jump in here, and it does it muddies up the value for everybody, because there's no rules and there's no standard really other than just success, and it's hard to it's I feel like maybe a lot of artists, I feel like what I'm doing is really selfish because it just means something to me, and then I'm asking people for what I do to mean something to them, and they don't care. They just want music, but lucky for me, I don't have the great ambitions to carry it that way. Maybe it's because I haven't had financial success through music. It's easy for me to sit here from the outside and go, man, too many people making money from this industry, but like any other industry, it's all old ties. The record industry has been tied up by all the same big money for a long time, and cookie cutter one good idea and turn it into the next. And I mean, playing country music really is a hard focus on that, because it seems to me like there's two forms of country music now. There's like a folk style, this red dirt style, and then there's pop country music, and they're very separated. Like most red dirt fans, even within the industry, can't stand pop country music, but they know the difference, and they know that, that industry is there like all for money. But I want to make a pop hook or a fun song that everybody loves and not really have to consider what genre I put it in. Because if I want to do a song that has distorted guitars or has a Latin beat, that's up to me. I shouldn't have to like break my contract with the record label in order to play something else. And that's that freedom that allows me to make good music anyway and make the right decisions. I mean, I'm not a success, so I can't say whether or not I'm really far off, or
You will be. You will be. Your music's good. You will be.
If you could collaborate with any artist, who would it be and why?
Living or dead?
Probably one of the icons like Willie Nelson
Ooh.
or somebody, way up. I just, well, the other answer could be anybody who'd want to flip the bill in the studio. Right there. Anybody who was into what I did and showed me love and then wanted to go in the studio. It seems like it doesn't take much these days, but no, just I don't have anything. I'm not like just the legends, man. And there's not a lot of them left. I think maybe that's why I'm feeling that way more and more. Like I grew up in the 80s and early 90s, most of my pubescent stages. So music for me had all those old timers were still part of my life. And now we're getting a little older, and a lot of them are gone. I'm like, oh God, who do I care to impress? I used to want Prince. If I wrote a song, I would think to myself, would Prince respect this?
I'm looking forward to hearing an upcoming single with John Paul Hodge and Big Snoop Dogg. I could just see the flyer right now for it. Both of your faces side by side, like over Concord.
So long as they handle the production and finishing the song, because
he's got plenty of people for that.
The first time he broke out a joint, I would be off in outer space, I'm sure.
Might get some
I'm
good
rapper.
So speaking of new music and stuff, I know you've got new music coming out. Tell us what you got coming out and when we're gonna hear it. Because you just sent me a song today, which comes out next month, and it's amazing. I gotta be honest, it's a really good song. I listened to it, I think 3 times before we started this interview. But yeah. So what do we got? When's the next album coming? Let us know.
I really got so much backed up that I just as soon as possible. We got these few tracks that we're working out. I do everything and pay independently, and I'm not doing a lot of great business. So if there's anybody out there who wants to network on financing recordings, that's kind of my top priority right now, because I'm finishing these songs one at a time with Alicia Champion in Oakland, California, and we have 2 songs that we're going to release here this coming month, and Echoed Walls, which is a song about the Smith River up near Crescent City, where my wife grew up, and her family, we spread her parents' ashes there, and so we wrote a song, and I'm trying to as many, I write songs that are about nonsense a lot of times and funny stories, but also this song is somewhat based off of conservation and water protection, and so these elements of writing songs about nature, I'm kind of gearing towards that, and that's this first one. But man, I have a lot of super exciting songs coming out, and it's all gonna be marketed the best that we can, but we can use any support to share any of these songs if you hear them. And we're completely independent out of North California, and I'm pretty excited. I just feel overdue. I don't know how other artists feel. I'm like, let's hurry up and work on the next one. But the marketing is not, we don't have expansive marketing. It'll be on Spotify and Pandora, and we distribute through CD Baby, which does the majority of the apps for music playing. But beyond that, everything is going to be word of mouth, and we're going to try our best to link up with as many indigenous events as possible, and just kind of try to get around. My hope is to go and ultimately, have an album about indigenous historical moments in time that I feel like we need to remember. So I'm always hoping to link up with anybody with any cultural education or historical facts or storytelling, anything to push burning sage and sweetgrass and, and doing sweats. And I'm looking to support anybody else really with this. And so I appreciate y'all having me on here, and I hope everybody likes that song Echoed Walls. I don't know how long you can play it, but you'll be the first. Right now we're trying to just put some art on it and get it released, and so we should have it out in probably about 3 weeks to the public. Echoed Walls.
Nice.
John Paul Hodge.
Definitely. We would love to debut it here. Definitely.
In radio, we do something called a world premiere. So we'd love to do world premieres. We'll have an artist call in on our phone line and do a quick chat and play the song, and then do a quick recap. And us in radio, we love to do those. So we'll talk about that offline. What advice, would you give to an upcoming artist? Doesn't matter what genre that they represent. Maybe they've never, written a song. Maybe they've never stepped into a studio. What would be just that 1 or 2 PowerPoints that you would share?
Off the top of my head, I could think of 2 very important ones. One would be to finish your project. Do everything you can. Even, I know there's a lot of talent, a lot of ability, and a lot of big dreams, and a lot of energy, but don't bite off more than you can chew. And if you have an idea, focus on it, make it the best that you can, and then finish it. So you have a product to work with. Once you have a product, then you can apply it. If anything, just release it and have a product, and over time, people will, so long as you're still part of it, people, the people will see it and hear it, and over time it'll be part of your catalog. Don't wind up with too many broken ideas that never make it, because then it's just time that you spend on things that don't pan out for anybody else but yourself. The other one is, consider in our society the amount of advertising that is going on that you see in your life. You see it on your phone. You have to wait for 5 seconds for every ad to come through before you can skip it, right? But it's a lot of money being spent on that, and it's become a bit of a pedestal. I think it's become a goal within the music industry to land a commercial or no, I mean, legit, that's it. The land a commercial is a big step and looks great on your resume, you know, and it could be royalties in the future. But I just want you to consider writing, just you may get to that point, but just don't write for that as a goal. Don't have it as a goal for your art. You know, consider deeper things that actually mean something to you or anybody else, and just maintain a deeper value than just trying to sell me some pharmaceuticals or something. I just, you know, I've never had anybody ask me to use the song on their commercial, and I'm sure if any kind of offer were made, it'd be hard to turn down if you're in need of money. But I could see that everybody needs to pay rent, but don't need it for status. I don't enjoy that. To keep your business and your music art, keep a balance. Don't make your business too important and it'll overshadow your art. And that's the best I can do with that. You know, have some integrity. That's about all. Have some integrity and do some art. Try your best.
That's good advice. It's actually really good advice. So let's talk tour first off. Like, where can people go see you? When are you going to get up here to the Northwest? Maybe we can figure something out later. We'll talk about that later.
Absolutely.
But yeah, where can people go to see you perform right now?
I'm doing a little bit of everything. You know, I don't have any tour plans. I don't have an agent. In fact, we've been focusing on trying to get these recordings together so we could put out and do some better marketing and get some better opportunities. The Indigenous Network has been really, really good to us in that, you know, spreading the love and sharing my information and my few videos that I have, and just word of mouth in that sense has really kept us afloat. And that what we want to do is tour around and bring, you know, a good set of music to people internationally. We've had a chance to tour. We had a chance to go perform in Brazil last year, and that was a little bit eye-opening in that, you know, everybody around the world is interested, you know, not just here in our region. But it costs money to tour, and you know, and it takes a lot of business really to get on with festivals and things like that. You know, it takes a lot of networking. That's why agents have become so important for people, is just to know someone who knows how to do it or knows how to get in. And sadly, we're not in that position yet. So I have nothing booked up the Pacific Northwest other than here in North California for the next few months. But we have the Native Arts Expo hooked up for Oakland, or for Mendocino here in the fall. And we're going to do the Indigenous Red Market here in Oakland. And other than that, you can find me, go on my website, paulhodge.com, or any of my social media, Instagram, I think primarily, and Facebook secondarily, and YouTube and all those other places. And I do perform, I'm paying some bills by performing at some smaller venues around here, you know, wineries, breweries. I perform here at Roosteller Farm in Dixon, and a lot in Livermore. I'll be at a Reno Festival this year. I played at some So Far Sounds home house shows. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but those are nice listening. They're listening venues, which is really hard to come by between all of us and anybody who's listening. I love that the most, to be able to go in on So Far in a private household with 50 to 100 people listening to every word that you say, because a lot of times at a festival there's really a few people listening and everyone else is just fighting for volume and noise, and it can be distracting, especially if for somewhat serious music. And that's kind of where I find myself about to sing too many sad songs, and you find yourself not being able to affect the drinkers, then you have a hard time really feeling good about yourself afterward. Doing Hess Brewing, I at Grayton Casino in Rohnert Park, California. That's a indigenous tribal gaming facility there, and I play there twice a month.
Hmm.
So just check on my website. You can find me little places here, but I'm singing a lot of cover songs and things to flip the bill. Favorites, singing a lot of the favorites. So I'm sure you hear your favorite Redbone song or plenty of Johnny Cash if you come out to me. But hit me up. I don't have a big festival thing. I hope I can connect with the North. We just traveled up there a few months ago for the first time, and I'm just through and through a Pacific Northwest person, and so it just felt so good to me there. And to be honest with you, the indigenous culture is much more prevalent up there. I was really impressed with the acceptance and the mix of and a lot of indigenous names, the Salish names were kept and used, and there was a big love for it. And from my traveling across the states, I feel like the North Pacific has a real strong root, that everybody else really, you don't get a lot of education about the Pacific Northwestern tribes. You don't find out how strong they were and strong they still are, until you start finding out for yourself. Now you just hear about the Apaches and the Lakotas and the Cherokees. So my affiliation is with the Cherokee Nation. I also have a lot of Muskogee blood, which is all southeastern tribes, and my family came here during the Depression era, and so everything gets blended into this working class thing, but the traditions are still there. And if there's any opportunity, I appreciate you guys so much. I love to come out perform you there. If you have any suggestions of songs that I should write about, I'd be really interested. I got an idea for a graphic novel / movie.
Really?
Awesome.
But I'm looking to network with creative professional level people to work on things with, and I'm all about it. So thank you guys for having me.